So we are in a very precarious position in this country. We need a political change, but we also need the resolve to resist. Hey, thanks for watching our live stream. I'm the host, David Krayden. I'll be back in about 10 minutes with the show. In the meantime, have a look at some of these clips and take the opportunity, please, to like this broadcast, ring the bell, or subscribe.
And we're stepping up in every way we can because we know that Russia must win this war. That Ukraine must win this war against Russia.
Go down the list of things that Justin Trudeau disapproves of, and you can imagine all of the things that will be criminalized. That someone who spent the first half of his adult life as a practicing racist, who dressed up in hideous racist costumes so many times he says he can't remember them all, should then be the arbiter on what constitutes hate.
I did not call people who were unvaccinated names.
The Prime Minister lied and his minions continue to lie about you for everything you did. Thank you to put your life on the line for us. You're one of the greatest women I ever met in my life.
A lot of people would say that you're simply taking a page out of the Donald Trump book.
Like which people would say that?
Well, I'm sure a great many Canadians, but...
Like who?
I don't know who, but...
We feel, because you all will have implants, and we measure your brain waves, and I can immediately tell you how the people react, or I can feel how the people react to your answers.
Oh, no, Mr. Bond. I expect you to be chipped.
I'm a liberal and a proud socialist, Mr. Speaker.
This is a Manchurian candidate. For people who don't understand the expression, I'm not talking about the movie. I'm referring to somebody who can be used as a useful idiot by another country to come out and spout these things off. He is a Marxist.
End your silence. Speak up. For God's sake, stop complying. Start rebelling. They're out to get you if you do not resist.
Good buddy, mercy sakes alive. Looks like we got us a convoy.
Canadian country singer Paul Brandt here. I've been listening with my wife and 2 kids, and we want to say thank you for all you're doing in defense of civil liberties and freedom.
I'll ask the question I posed to you at the start of my round. Will you apologize on behalf of the government for this outrageous invite?
And
stand by the invitation.
Of course, what I said in my initial.
You have no shame.
What? Oh my heavens!
There is nothing they fear like the crystal clear sound of someone somewhere telling the truth.
So it will be a world integrating the physical, biological, and the digital dimensions. So it will be a new world.
Stop giving them the benefit of the doubt. Because I can tell you, you cannot comply your way out of a tyranny.
Out of war, a few people make huge fortunes. I would say it's plain to see that the racket has been going from strength to strength ever since. In his farewell address to the American people in 1961, outgoing President and old soldier Dwight D. Eisenhower warned about the threat posed by what he was already able to identify as the military-industrial complex.
These are all small countries today. They're much like the Greek city-states in the age of the Roman Empire. We're a sort of declining Rome at this point. I hope Americans will figure that out and act against it, but we're a declining Rome. The European states are like the little Greek city-states that were entirely dependent upon Roman military power to save them from the Macedonians. This whole business is a sham. NATO is probably not going to survive.
Of Canadians.
Canadians. In particular, over 80% of the residents of Winnipeg
from the Public Health Agency of Canada did not have the science to support this policy. So the government initiated a study with a guy named David Fisman at the University of Toronto. And this study was so bad, Madam Speaker, that there's a book called Fisman's Fraud, The Rise of Canadian Hate Science. And I just want to know how much money did they spend on these studies to support this Arrive scam when they knew that they didn't have the science to even support it from day one.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Well, Madam Speaker, the mega conservative far right is coming out. These are the anti, these are the ones that still deny the pandemic. And at the end of the day, thank goodness it was that Canadians and the majority of the people in the House saw the value of protecting the health and well-being of Canadians, and that the far right was marginalized back then, Madam Speaker, because as a direct result, more people are living today.
When did you and your government start to become so afraid of your own citizens?
The Online Harms Act. You heard about it? Well, I've got some bad news for you. It is aimed at your free speech.
Thank God for truckers.
They are so terrified that we, the people, may make what they think is the wrong choice. That in the name of protecting democracy and saving us from ourselves, they're actually destroying our democracy and taking away our freedom.
This is the worst assault on freedom of expression ever in Canadian history.
Donc le but, c'était de faire une pression économique, empêcher de faire.
So the goal was to put economic pressure on these people to stop them from buying groceries, paying into their health insurance, and get them out of the streets.
Not the characterization that I would put on it. The objective was to ensure that those who were funding the continued illegal blockade of this and other cities were no longer able to do so.
Okay. Donc vous n'avez pas répondu à ma question.
So you didn't answer my first question. In which other democratic country is it possible to do that?
Democratically passed legislation in this country pursuant to the Emergencies Act in Canada.
Okay, donc vous avez fait le droit là. Vous vous êtes inspiré de la Corée du Nord?
So what, were you inspired by North Korea for this?
No. I'm not going to respond to that type of question, Madam Chair.
No, mais
He's calling them domestic terrorists and wants to freeze their bank accounts. This has been absolutely outrageous. And everybody now is starting to agree that Justin Trudeau has lost this fight.
There will be consequences.
Justin Trudeau, though, this week said something I hated, which he called out. He said, the world we're starting to see the rise, the growth of authoritarianism and totalitarianism and dictatorships. And I couldn't believe that he said this with a straight face. Listen.
In all of our democracies, in every democracy around the world, we are seeing a rising movements of either authoritarian populism or skepticism about democracy itself. And we all need to recommit ourselves to standing up, not just for Ukraine, but through standing up for Ukraine, to the very principles that make our countries strong and free.
So Justin Trudeau says these comments, he says them with a straight face, as if he doesn't realize what's happening in his own country being led by him to clamp down on freedoms, the authoritarianism that he is presiding over in Canada.
Biden mourned Navalny's death. Even in prison, he was a powerful voice for the truth, he said. An interesting statement while journalist Julian Assange, who published Truth Inconvenient to the US and the West, presently rots in Belmarsh prison as he fights extradition to the US. I'm not yet aware of Biden mentioning, far less lamenting, the death in a Ukrainian prison of US citizen and writer Gonzalo Lira, who was critical of the Zelensky regime. Biden's administration has sought determinedly to jail his and their strongest and most popular opponent, Donald Trump. And yet, in the immediate aftermath of Navalny's death, Biden highlighted Vladimir Putin's desperate attempts to stamp out the opposition. Zelensky, propped up only by Western cash, has crushed his own political opponents as well. The pattern seems clear. Bleat about enemies threatening democracy, while simultaneously and blatantly and hypocritically seeking to trample on democracy at home, or turn a blind eye to the same being carried out by allies, or make that business partners.
Welcome back to another episode of Stand on Guard, live at question period. We'll be going to question period in about 10 minutes, but I wanted to share a few things with you first. First, an explanation for yesterday. My power went out. Yes. Couldn't believe it. I thought I had about 5 or 10 minutes left in my machine. It was unplugged on the desk here, and bang, power went off, internet went off, everything. So that's why I disappeared at the end of yesterday's show. But thank you for watching yesterday, and my apologies for the little accident. Budget day in about 2 hours' time. The Minister of Finance, Deputy Prime Minister Chrystia Freeland, will rise in the House and tell us basically what she's already told us in the last couple of weeks. What we really have to find out is, we know the so-called rich are going to be targeted with new taxes. Are you now rich? Are you a middle-class person who's now going to be adjudicated as rich? The unalloyed narcissism of both Freeland and the Prime Minister are exhibited every day, and they will be exhibited in this budget. You know, Trudeau, despite his relative youth, is really the personification of early decrepitude. He's falling apart as a human being and as a politician, and we're watching it happen. But let's listen to what Pierre Poilievre, Conservative Party leader, had to say about the budget already today.
More and more debt. For the love of God, Justin Trudeau, you are not worth the cost. So today, will you please stop? Stop until common sense conservatives can start governing with common sense for this country. A common sense plan to axe the tax, to bring down the cost of energy, food, and everything else. We will axe the carbon tax. That will make our businesses more competitive, our wages higher, our food more affordable. We'll cut income tax so hard work pays off. We'll fix the budget by bringing in a common sense dollar-for-dollar law that requires that we find $1 of savings for every new dollar of spending while we slash the waste and reduce the burden on the backs of Canadians. A smaller government with bigger citizens.
Sounds good. You know, somebody wrote yesterday to me and said, stop shilling for Poilievre and the Conservatives. Well, I don't shill for any political party. I hope that's clear. I'm an independent journalist. I'm a small C conservative, small L libertarian, but I fight for human rights. I fight for liberty. I fight for free speech, freedom of religion, freedom of assembly, and I fight for what Canada used to believe in. And if Poilievre gets it right, I'll tell you he gets it right. If Poilievre gets it wrong, I'll tell you Poilievre gets it wrong. He's wrong on Ukraine, very wrong. And he's going, I hope he's going to change his opinion on that before it really comes back to bite him. What's happening with the NDP today? Well, I think they're going to support this budget. I don't know how much longer they can support the carbon tax. Let's listen to the hypocritical bag of wind, Jagmeet Singh.
Do you support a consumer carbon levy? Yes or no?
Our position has not changed at all. But our position has not changed. Our position, I mean, you've seen our votes. Our position has not changed.
Right now, what is your position?
We absolutely support a price on pollution. We've always supported it.
For consumers.
We've always supported
I'm just looking to clarify, sir. Do you support a consumer carbon price?
I've said it again and again, and you've seen our votes on this. We absolutely support a price on pollution. We have not changed our position on that. We have not changed our position on that.
But you won't actually confirm what it is.
We have not changed our position. I mean, you could look at our voting record. We've been very clear. We support a price on pollution. But our concern, we have absolutely been very clear. Our position has not changed. And so you can look at our voting record, and our position is very clear. But my concern is this, and I want to be very clear on this concern. I want to spend the time that I have talking about my concern. The Liberals say to working class people, we don't have money for you to buy heat pumps. We don't have money to support you, but we've got billions of dollars for oil and gas companies. Workers tell me that is unfair, and that's what we pointed out. So we said that very clearly. And we've said again and again, we need to make sure we fight the climate crisis with everything we have. But the Liberals are eroding that trust by not supporting working class people. They are eroding that trust by not saying clearly that whose side are we on? The Liberals right now are making it seem like they're on the side of big polluters and they're not on the side of working class people. How can this government justify billions of dollars in subsidies for oil and gas companies and say no to working class people? That is wrong, and I want to focus on that. Our position on fighting the climate crisis has not changed. We believe absolutely on a price on pollution, but we also believe the plan has to be fair. And right now, the Liberals are not making a fair plan. They're saying big polluters get bigger and bigger profits.
All right, enough of that duplicitous bag of wind. An exquisite exercise in hypocrisy and, shall we say, complete double talk. What is he trying to say? That their position hasn't changed? Of course it has. He just doesn't know how it's changed. He doesn't know how to describe it. He doesn't know how to explain it. He doesn't know how to make it politically worthwhile for him. That's all Jagmeet Singh is ever about. Working class people? He's never met a working class person. My God, does he know one socially? Or would he walk across the street to avoid a working class person because he has nothing in common with them? Want to play one more clip here from David Dodge. There's a voice from the past. He has an interesting assessment of the budget here.
Is to increase saving, but we're moving in exactly in the wrong direction, Bessie. This, I was saying to someone earlier, I think this is likely to be the worst budget since the McKechnie budget of 1982, in the sense of pointing us in the wrong direction as to how we go about raising the incomes of Canadians and actually making Canadians feel better over the medium term.
Yes, I would concur with that. But the real question today is how much are taxes going to go up? Because the Liberals have a huge deficit this year. They will. They have a huge debt. They've accumulated more debt under Trudeau than all previous prime ministers. And why is that? Look at this. Look at this. Number of employees in the entire federal public service. Look how that curve goes straight up under Justin Trudeau. He's hired more public service, more government workers than all previous prime ministers have in their tenure. He has gone crazy increasing the public service. He has gone crazy spending your dollars, spending your money. And they spend twice as much than they are taking in revenue. And that's why Freeland is going to raise taxes, of course, because it can't continue. It's going to implode. But of course, whether or not they raise taxes or not, the country is going to implode. And that's the reality of Canada right now. The MPs just gave themselves a huge wage increase, all of the MPs. And it's automatic these days. They don't have to even sit down and vote on it. It's automatic. Oh, that makes it so simple, so painless, so relatively innocuous, doesn't it? Except that's not the case. Their price keeps going up. Are any of them worth the cost? I don't know. I really don't know. How much our prime minister is getting? $406,000, $200,000. Outrageous. Is he worth it? No, of course not. Would he be getting that in the private sector for doing anything? Of course not. It really is outrageous. And who's suffering in all of this? Farmers. Guilbeault gets up yesterday and says farmers aren't worried about the carbon tax. They're worried about climate change. And of course, he's making this. Is he meeting with farmers? I don't know. Maybe. I'm just listening in on question period. Maybe he's listening to farmers, but he's certainly not reporting back what they're saying. They're worried about hurricanes and floods and fires and, oh, God, all phenomena which isn't not in any way created or prompted by climate change. We know that the forest fires are caused by arsonists, not climate change. Here's a bill from one of Pierre Poilievre's constituents. Look how much he's paying in carbon tax to heat his barn so he can grow mushrooms. Now that's who is suffering as a result of Justin Trudeau and his tyranny. And it is tyranny. It's damn tyranny. And this has to stop. And if it doesn't stop, this government has got to be replaced. And of course, we all know it has to be replaced. It's a question of when. The real question now is how long can the NDP hang on? And I think we're about to go to question period. So this will be interesting. Will they be more useless questions like we've had recently from the Conservatives? I hope not. I hope they make use of this time to hammer this government. And please, if you're a podcaster, broadcaster, don't do a question period piece about something that didn't happen. I read that yesterday. I'm sorry, Chrystia Freeland wasn't there yesterday, so Pierre Poilievre couldn't have destroyed her in question period. Tell the truth, please, because when you're not telling the truth, you're doing like the Liberals do. And when you're doing like the Liberals do, the Liberals can point their finger at us and say, hey, those independent media people are promoting disinformation. I guess we need the Online Harms Act. So please tell the truth. Let's go to question period. It's just about to begin. Thank you for watching today. And we're ready for anything. No Trudeau again?
Common sense or nonsense? He wants to cut the programs that support the middle class. He wants to cut programs to build housing. He wants to cut programs that protect our environment. That is not common sense. It is incompetence. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition. Incompetence from the Minister who lost 1 million Canadians, who was the worst Minister of Immigration in our history. His own prime minister admitted that he led the out-of-control immigration system. That's why, according to them, the cost of housing has doubled. Now, he is pushing the prices further. Inflationary deficits are adding 2% to interest rates. $6,000 for a family with a $300,000 mortgage. Will the government reduce the deficit and interest rates so Canadians can keep their money and their houses? The Honourable Minister of Innovation. Mr. Speaker, 6 is the number that Canadians at home need to remember. What we've just heard, the leader of the Conservatives, he wants to advise Canadians, but he was able to just build 6 units of affordable housing when he was minister. Mr. Speaker, I'll repeat, we will take no lessons from the Conservatives. On this side, Mr. Speaker, we have a plan to build houses, create jobs, create prosperity. Canadians know that slogans don't build houses, they don't build prosperity, and they won't help Canadians. Every day is a good day to fight for Canadians. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Common sense Conservatives will axe the tax, build the homes, fix the budget, and stop the crime. This Prime Minister is not worth the cost of interest. According to Scotiabank, the Prime Minister's deficits are adding 2 full percentage points extra in interest costs for the average family. That works out to about $6,000 for a modest mortgage of $300,000. $6,000 in extra mortgage payments from these deficits alone. Will they finally wake up to the fact that this NDP Liberal Prime Minister is not worth the cost?
The Honourable Minister for Housing, Infrastructure and Communities.
Mr. Speaker, the Leader of the Opposition seems to know the cost of everything but the value of absolutely nothing. Does he not see value in the measures that are building more homes in this country? Does he not see value in programs that are going to put food on the table for hungry kids through a school food program?
It's the same thing he said yesterday.
He continues to oppose measures that are helping students with the cost of their education and the families with the cost of housing. Mr. Speaker, we will continue to put measures on the table to make life more affordable for middle-class Canadians and do right by a generation of young people who've been priced out of the housing market. It's a shame his policies would have the exact opposite effect.
Hear, hear. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, we can't see the value of homes and food that don't exist after 8 years. They have a food program which after 8 years has no food, a affordable housing program which has doubled housing costs. They're not worth the cost, and now their deficits are driving up the interest obligations for the average family. For a family with a $500,000 mortgage, deficits are adding $10,000 in additional interest payments per year. When will they realize that after 8 years, this NDP Liberal Prime Minister is not worth the cost?
The Honourable Minister for Housing, Infrastructure and Communities.
Mr. Speaker, he wants to talk about homes that don't exist. Perhaps we should look at the 800,000 affordable housing units that were lost while he was housing minister. Perhaps we should examine the fact that while he was minister, 0 new apartments were supported by the federal government and a total of only 6 affordable housing units nationwide. Now, he likes to talk a big game, but let's look at the plan he's putting on the table. He wants to raise taxes on home construction and cut funding for the cities that are making it easier to build home. We've advanced programs that are not just going to build more homes, but allow people to save up more money with their down payment and reduce their monthly mortgage costs when they go to join the housing market for the...
Excuse me. I understand that there was a problem with interpretation.
To see, is the interpretation now working from English to French? Do we have English to French? Do we have it working now? Can anybody give me a signal? Okay. Alors, je vais inviter le...
So I will invite the minister to restart his answer because it wasn't understood by a number of members. The Honourable
Minister for Housing, Infrastructure and Communities.
Mr. Speaker, the Honourable Member wants to talk about homes that don't exist. Let's talk about the 800,000 affordable housing units that were lost.
Yes, as you've all noted, this is a repeat from yesterday. Anyway, we are going to be, I'm sure it was bad enough watching this once. We're not going to have to watch it again. We're going to end this one early today. My apologies. I thought we had a question period on, but apparently not. So we will join you all later, and I'll have comment on the budget when it's out. Thanks for watching this much today, and we will be back again tomorrow when presumably we'll have a new question period. Now, this has been an inconvenience for me too. Sorry for the difficulties.